Aloha, everyone, and welcome to Redtime Stories, episode 13. What's up with the GMO mosquitoes? I'm your host and founder, Tamara Mackay, and we're here to share stories and talk about things that have to do with life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, while protecting our First Amendment rights, and also to discuss concerns that affect our community and our country. Again, welcome to episode 13, where we have the opportunity to speak to the founder and president of Hawaii United, Tina Leah. Again, thank you for joining us. And if you're interested in looking at previous shows, like last week, we had a great episode with the Maui County Chair and shed some light on a few items that people were curious about. You can find those past episodes on Liberty Arise Media platform, or you can also find those episodes on YouTube at Redtime Stories. So without further ado, I'm super excited for you all to hear the information and get some clarity on what's going on with the mosquitoes that have been released in Florida, Texas, and also here in Maui and Hawaii. So without further ado, let's bring on Tina Leah from Hawaii United.
Aloha. We're actually
Aloha.
Hawaii Unites, and I was told to say with an S.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hawaii Unites.
Yeah, just this last week, I was like, make sure you say with an S so that everybody knows.
That's
yeah,
very
thank you so
important because it'll take you to a whole nother website,
Right.
Hawaii Unites. Well, thank you for taking the time out to do this. I mean, it's an important issue. I know you've been speaking a lot about it. And, you know, the more that we can get exposure on it, the better, because a lot of people do not know what's going on, and then some people don't understand what's going on. So hopefully we can simplify, get more people involved, and take action. So tell a little bit about yourself and Hawaii Unites and what your organization is about before we start delving into the dirty mosquito issue.
Okay, well, we're an environmental nonprofit, and we formed the beginning of this year, and there was a definite need for an organization that would take a serious look at how this project is affecting our environment, and we do intend to continue pursuing other projects that affect the environment. And myself, I have a background in environmental nonprofits. I have worked in consulting and development and grants writing and grants management with environmental nonprofits and projects and programs, events. And so I definitely had the right background to put all of this together when the time was right. And I had already been researching the project starting over a year ago when we first became more aware of it in the community. And as soon as I heard about it, I knew I was concerned. So I started looking into it, and the more and more I found out, the more and more I knew we had to do something about it. So I have been testifying, commenting, mobilizing, activating the community, making sure that people have the information that they need, documenting everything. And and we've taken on a legal challenge here to challenge the state agencies that are managing this project. So that's a little bit about the background on how this came to be. And I do want to give credit to multiple other people in the community who have spoken up about this from early on and who have come on board even more recently. And so we definitely have a team of people, some more behind the scenes, and we're a lot of research and a lot of thought going into making sure that people are on top of this and aware.
Right. And I'm sure more will jump on the train as they know the severity of it, because again, you know, the more that I learned about it, and because I was like, what mosquitoes are you talking about? And you know, one of the launch places is actually right above where we live. And yeah, so talking more about, you know, like Scott, you know, we've talked about it a few times with Liberty Arise and so forth, and then hearing your speeches and visiting your website, I'm like, wait a minute. And then all of a sudden, hearing that they launched mosquitoes, and you know, anything that has anything linked to Bill Gates, you know, it's not good, in my opinion. But can you talk a little bit about it? Because I don't think a lot of people are really aware that there's already been a launch of GMO mosquitoes in not just Florida, but also Texas.
Right. So actually, well, there's a few things to say on that with the
Mhm.
GMO versus Wolbachia, et cetera. But first thing is that this first project that they've presented to the public is technically not labeled a GMO mosquito. It's the
Mm.
Wolbachia lab bacteria infected mosquito, which comes with all of its own risks. And the one they're doing here for this initial project to target the avian malaria, it is with a species of mosquito, the Culex Q southern house mosquito, that's never been used for this purpose before. So it's completely experimental, and the project area is over 89 times the size of the largest globally to date of any Wolbachia mosquito release. So, and then we did find, well, we can talk a little bit more as we go on about finding out that they have misrepresented their intentions to release genetically modified mosquitoes as well. That is part of their goals moving forward. So we can look at that, and it's even, beyond genetically modified. It's CRISPR technology, and so that's interesting to find out that they threw that whole red herring topic out there to kind of make it sound like anyone who was against GMO mosquitoes, well, that's not what we're doing. They don't know what they're talking about. Well, turns out that's their big plan anyway. This is just opening the door to it. But as far as Texas and Florida, both states have released both the actual genetically modified GMO Oxitec mosquitoes, and they have both also released Wolbachia mosquitoes, similar to what's being done here. But again, what's being done here has never been done before. But both kinds have been released in both states. And the
And
mosquitoes, oh, sorry,
oh,
they
no, no,
have.
no, no. Yeah, it's an interesting. I want to make sure that I asked even the simple questions so people can really understand. So there's two different types of things going on: the Wabakia and then the GMO that's going off in Texas. What is their goal again? To be releasing these mosquitoes in Texas and Florida. What's the excuse that they're using?
In those states, it is used to target mosquitoes that affect human health. And interestingly enough, what's going on here with this project in Hawaii is that they are running a whole other program through the Department of Health with additional mosquito types, Aedes mosquitoes, the same ones that were released in Texas and Florida, and then another Aedes aegypti mosquito. And the Department of Health has its own project going to use these to suppress mosquitoes of human health concern. And that's what normally is done. This has never been used for conservation purposes. And so that's also something that's novel, brand new here, and experimental, where they're targeting, the forest bird disease concerns. And so that's generally why they say that they're releasing the mosquitoes.
So have
On
they
the
having any proven tests that this is going to work, or is this going to be similar to COVID where we're all test guinea pigs?
As far as what they're doing here in Hawaii, I would say no. This is where they're learning whether it's going to work or backfire terribly. We are the ground zero experiment of this particular technology.
So, um, correct me if I'm wrong. It Malaria hasn't existed in quite some time, and now recently, since the release of these mosquitoes, they have found a case in Florida and Texas. Is that correct, of malaria?
Yeah, so I think there's at this point something like 7 cases. I think there was one in Texas, and the number in Florida is going up. Initially, it was something like 5 total, but I think it may be up to 7. And that is human malaria, and that's a completely different disease than what is being targeted here with the avian malaria. And
Mm-hmm.
actually, it's different mosquitoes that transmit that. And fortunately, at this point, we don't have the mosquito that transmits human malaria. It's called Anopheles. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and another question about the science of what may have happened in Texas and Florida, and a lot of what's being talked about in the alternative media about this is not really touching on what could have really happened, other than we can say things like, well, they're researching malaria vaccines, or they've found out how to vaccinate people with mosquitoes, or they released mosquitoes and now there's malaria. But there isn't a direct correlation with the science as far as that goes. But I can tell you that there is a correlation that I can see based on the research that we've done on this project here, and that would be the mosquitoes that they released in Texas and Florida, both the GMO Oxitec and the Wolbachia infected ones, are Aedes aegypti mosquitoes. And that is one of the species the Department of Health is going to be bringing in over here. That's different from the southern house mosquito that is part of this bird, avian malaria project. But the mosquitoes they released are Aedes aegypti, so those don't transmit human malaria. However, what we found in our research is that what can happen when they release these mosquitoes, either kind, to suppress the population of a particular type of mosquito, another type of mosquito can have a surge in population and can increase in numbers. So what I'm seeing is the possibility that because they were intentionally suppressing that Aedes aegypti population, the Anopheles human malaria transmitting population increased. And then in addition to that, there's a number of things that could have happened here that I'm seeing where we could say, well, this is what I would look at if I was making a correlation between these having been released and the cases, which are, the difference is that these cases are acquired locally as opposed to someone brought them in from another country. They're saying that it appears that they have been acquired locally. So another thing that could have happened is that when they released the Wolbachia mosquitoes there in Texas and Florida, there's something called horizontal transmission of that introduced strain of the Wolbachia. And that's one of our main concerns here, is that that strain of Wolbachia can transmit to other insects in the environment through the feeding sites and the serial predation, where one insect eats another, the larva eats the larva, the standing water where that takes place. And it can also happen through mating of the mosquitoes, not the same route that they're intentionally wanting the mating to happen so that the offspring aren't viable, but just through the transmission of them having mated, the bacteria can transmit. But in this case, I don't know whether that would be an issue, but the feeding sites for sure would be an issue, and serial predation could be an issue too. So it's possible that these human malaria carrying and transmitting mosquitoes picked up the introduced bacteria strain from the mosquitoes that they released. And the other main concern that we have with all of this, a process of what's going on here, what's going on there, what can go wrong, is that there have been peer-reviewed studies showing that Wolbachia bacteria can cause mosquitoes to become more capable of transmitting diseases. It can increase the pathogen infection, so the load of pathogens, and make them more capable of transmitting disease. So that's a lot of science, and
Yeah.
it is just sort of, what could have happened. But I think it needs to be said, because a lot of people are talking about, what happened here. If I was to guess, if there was a correlation, it would be something more along those lines, unless you want to go out there and say, maybe they did just release something that they didn't tell us about. But I wouldn't rule that out. But, you know.
Right. With the way things are going nowadays, I mean, everybody's a skeptic on the intent of what are the powers that be of what they're doing. So many odd things are happening in our world, that's affecting our water supply and our food supply and factories and so forth. And Bill Gates with his promoting, global population control. So who's to say? I mean, the science is starting to show that there's a threat on humanity right now, so we have to question everything. With the mosquitoes, do you know if they've done any in-house trial bases with birds or the other mosquitoes, or some kind of process to test this, to see that there is no danger or transmission to hurt humans or even livestock?
I have not seen anything presented by the agency partners in this project to say that they have studied this in any way sufficiently, and it appears like some aspects of it they're still studying. We've been looking into different grants and funding, and it looks like they're studying it as they go, you know,
Yeah.
and they might be, wanting to tweak it as they go. And this is why, again, it's an experiment and they're wanting to do it here out in our natural environment and our, our home where humans live and the birds can be actually caused to go extinct from it. The birds that they're supposed to be saving, other wildlife can be affected, other animals can be affected, the ecosystem as a whole. So I can't say that I've seen any solid studies, and that is why we're insisting that an environmental impact statement needs to be done and should have been done in the first place, because we would need to see those detailed studies already before they unleash something like this on the public.
Definitely, that was something that I was going to touch on next, is how it would impact the ecosystem. And it seems like every time that they bring something over, it becomes a problem. The mongoose and the deer are examples of this, but I feel that the mosquitoes are something a little bit more serious, because they they can land on our livestock. We don't know how it's going to affect those, especially since like Maui has cattle ranches here and produces food, or even the deer that people are hunting um, to feed their families here, including the pigs. How is it going to affect us if it lands and bites a human? Is there any type of science to what the repercussions are, and what happens if someone is affected, livestock, human, whatever? Do you know anything about that?
Yeah, so I would say, a lot of people are worried about what the bacteria, is the bacteria going to get in me? And that is at this point not the concern. The bacteria, we're seeing different studies where this science might even be changing and opening up to that possibility. But at this point, it's believed that Wolbachia can't live inside mammals because of the temperature. So it can get inside of you, but it cannot infect your cells at this point, is what is believed. So the actual concern is that the mosquitoes themselves could be carrying diseases that can be transmitted to humans, birds, other animals. And we don't know at this point what pathogens those mosquitoes are being screened for before they bring them in. And that information has not been presented to the public at all. And I've had to do a FOIA request with the EPA, Freedom of Information Act, to attempt to obtain those documents that would show what the pathogen screenings are. And even those documents have confidential attachments, so we may never know what they're screening them for. And there are a number of diseases to be concerned about, because they do feed these mosquitoes on blood, and we don't know where that source is coming from. It could be expired blood from human blood banks, it could be animal blood, it could be
Hmm.
bird blood. So that's a big concern. And the other thing to mention is, as we're talking about this, if the proponents of the project were to hear it, they go, well, none of this is relevant. We're only releasing male mosquitoes and they don't bite. And so it needs to be said that that is not true. And they have admitted it. They will be releasing females unintentionally because of the sorting process. And they've documented no solid figures on that in their environmental assessment that they presented to the public to push this through. And the figures that we do have from their importing requests and the EPA website and EPA documentation is that based on the number of mosquitoes that they are allowed to release here, just on Maui, and the number that is allowed to be released of females per male ratio accidentally because of
Yeah.
missorting, it could be over 3,000 females a week that are
Right.
released, and they bite and they breed and they do spread disease. And the male mosquitoes from the lab, if they're not screened properly for pathogens, they can transmit pathogens to females that spread disease. So many things could go wrong here, you know?
Absolutely. It seems like they are stepping away from being accountable for mistakes that are being happen that are happening. And so what is they again back to the birds. They're using the excuse of the birds. I'm just really concerned because we had the county council had talked about making certain lights illegal because that was also causing birds to mysteriously die. However, there has been no proven tests on that. All we found was that somebody was going to benefit financially with their business for changing out the lights. And why aren't they taking into consideration if that maybe it's pesticides and other types of things that are affecting these native birds? Why do they feel that they have to bring in something like GMO mosquitoes to tackle an issue when we know that there's pesticides being sprayed like from Bayer, and they've been fined and so forth for what they've been spraying around, along with flyover uh, cloud spraying and so forth. What's your thought on that?
Yeah, I'm definitely concerned that they haven't presented any solid data or, shown the route that they got to that data. To really prove the narrative that they're putting forward here. We don't even know necessarily about the numbers of bird deaths or how many birds are still in existence of the different honey creepers that are the focus of this project. And so that, along with what you're saying, there are different factors specifically in the environment there up in the project area. They have used pesticides and herbicides and continue to do that. And they also are erecting cell towers over there in the project
Mm-hmm.
area. And they do, tagging with the birds that has RF tagging. And so there's so many things that need to be looked at here to show to the public, in good faith that what they're presenting is solid. And why they're not doing that is, to me, it's a red flag. Just
Oh,
show us,
absolutely.
just ease everybody's mind that this is, what it's supposed to be, and that there's actual concern for the birds. And I have to say, we see a lot of people speaking out on this that are in favor of it, and I do see the heart that they have for the birds. I think that they have been misguided, that this
Mm-hmm.
is actually a positive thing and a good solution. But at the same time, there's clearly a bigger picture agenda here, and the fact that people can't step back just for a second and take the blinders off and say, um, this doesn't sound good for the birds. Like, I don't think it takes, a scientific degree to go sit up there in the forest, listen to the birds. They don't want this to happen.
Right.
Guaranteed. The birds
Yeah.
do not want you bringing in some kind of lab infected invasive mosquito to try to rectify a problem that humans caused by continuing to, play with the science and play with the environment, and let's see what happens. It's not a healthy approach, and there's so much that goes along with it that is clearly not aligned with being pro environment and pro natural world, and actually honoring the birds and their ancestry and connection to the lands and everything.
Yeah, I have to agree with you that more testing needs to be done on other avenues that could be affecting the birds. I'm deeply concerned as a human being about genetically modified anything because it is disrupting our ecosystem. Everything has a natural balance, and we do have poisons in the air, and that needs to be taken into consideration and eliminating. And I think that, in my opinion, that uh, I know that you guys are seeking a TRO. That needs to happen until all other avenues have been exhausted. Because if it's not a problem, why are we trying to fix it? I also believe that it's a gateway to something bigger. Okay, if we got through with this mosquito and the GMO and putting little things inside of these little bugs and so forth, what is next? What does I'm trying to be as simple for the audience so that they understand what I'm saying and what's been communicated, because I think it's horrifying, and to know that, not far from where I live could be a release area. And so what can I do to protect myself? What and then I'm concerned if these mosquitoes, pass something on in the waters, or like I said, in our livestock, the things that we eat. How am I going to know that we're safe? And with that, I'm just going to take a quick break with our sponsor, Be Nourished, and come back and we can touch bases a little bit on the TRO and how people can help and what they can do. Okay,
Yep.
so we'll be right back and hear from our sponsor, Be Nourished, the best honey on.
Honey. It's one of the greatest gifts to man. With millions of wildflowers in every bottle, the nourishing power of honey is still yet to be fully discovered. Be Nourished Healing Products combines healing ingredients from around the planet to the purest honey from the island of Maui to bring magic to your taste buds. The best honey from the most beautiful place to nourish your body, mind, and soul. From our hearts to yours, be nourished.
Okay, Be Nourished. Please visit their website. They have fantastic products, and don't forget to enter Liberty when you check out to get 22% off. They're fantastic. You must try them, and they're good for you too. Okay, we're going to come back with Tina Leah, who is the president and founder of HawaiiUnites.org. And now we're going to speak a little bit more about what actions that they're going to take, what you can do to support them, and where do we go from here?
Absolutely. Can I touch on a couple things that you mentioned before?
Absolutely.
Okay, before I
Yeah.
forget to mention. So one thing was that you talked about the how this could affect the water, and the watersheds are up there in the project area,
Mm-hmm.
and that that is to be protected area. And as we know, one thing does affect another. So if the you know insects are affected, the birds are affected, the plants are affected, that affects the flow of the water.
Chain
Um,
reaction.
and of course, we're always worried about anything getting in the water, and this is not something that was here before. It's being brought in from the
Right.
lab. We don't want it in the water, what one way or the other, what it might do, but it doesn't belong there. So that's an issue. The other thing was that you said, what's the bigger seems like there's something else. There most certainly is something else going on.
Absolutely.
And it's not even just, I think something else is going on. It's in their documents. They, they're just not presenting it to the public because they want everyone to believe this, we're saving the birds, and if we don't do this, all the birds are going to die, and we get on board, and in the meantime, they're over here on the side with their targeting of human health and not telling anyone about it, bringing in a couple more mosquito types that we were not expecting. Well, I was, because I've been looking at the documents, but and then in addition to that, planning to do the synthetic, what I had said before, the synthetic biology. It's called PGSIT, precision guided sterile insect technique, and it's a genetic modification using CRISPR technology with the mosquitoes.
Wow.
And the biggest thing that we have just uncovered here from, again, their own documents, the DLNR, the lead agency for the state, I would say, for this project,
Mm-hmm.
and the agency that we are challenging in court along with their board for pushing this through and approving it. They have a lab already on the islands, and they've been funded to build out the insectary where they intend to mass produce these mosquitoes in perpetuity forever, according to their own documents. They want to mass produce 400,000 of the Wolbachia mosquitoes per month to release all over the islands. And as
Wow.
soon as the technology is ready, which they're working on, they want to produce these genetically modified CRISPR technology mosquitoes. And so
Wow.
this is just a huge cash cow. There's all this funding coming from the federal government. There are grants involved. There's likely private funding. We're still uncovering that information, and that might take some time. But for sure, we know there's millions of dollars coming from the Department of the Interior already to these agencies. And we don't even know who's funding that DLNR lab. But talk about conflict of interest. And in the beginning, one of the first things we said was, you must disclose conflicts of interest. And they have not done that at all. We've already found several conflicts of interest with people that shouldn't have been voting on things because they, where they were working would benefit from it, and et cetera, right? But this is beyond a conflict of interest here with the DLNR. This is outrageous that this is allowed to continue like this blatantly. And the public is just buying into it. That they're clearly doing this because they want to continue having that money flow through their agency. And that does change the way that people look at how things affect the environment. It can change whether or not they're actually showing care for the process and the environment and the birds and everything. So it's not okay, and it is a bigger picture issue. But you wanted to find out more about what's going on and what we can do.
Oh, definitely. I mean, all the information that you can give, and we'll get your information so people can contact you, participate. So tell us a little bit about you. You said that you are working on a TRO. How is that going?
Yeah, so we initially filed a challenge to the approval of the environmental assessment, and that's the HEPA, Hawaii Environmental Policy Act process, where we're challenging that approval and finding of no significant impact for the project and saying, no, you should have done an environmental impact statement, studied this further, studied alternatives, really looked into the risks and everything. So that's our initial court challenge. But because they started releasing the mosquitoes despite that active litigation, we've also filed a temporary restraining order and preliminary injunction to stop that. And we have a hearing coming up next Friday, July 21st on Oahu. And so we're asking people to, support us. There's going to be some sign waving. I need to get some of that information out to the public because there's a very active group that is mobilizing on the east side since we went out there and did outreach, and they're organizing some events, sign wavings. And, of course, we're raising funds for our legal fees because we expect that is going to continue for some time, and it's going to end up being a long-term kind of a process of raising legal fees so that we can continue pushing back against this, because not only is it happening on Maui, but now they have released an environmental assessment on Kauai, and they're in the comment period there, similar to what happened here on Maui. So they have until, and we have, because all islands should get on board with this and say, we don't want that on any island. Every island should support every island and say, we don't want this in Hawaii.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, their comment period ends July 24th, and you can find information, a link on our homepage, hawaiiunites.org, to the comment page where you can submit your comment. And we also have a sample comment for that. Another thing that's happening is that the Board of Land and Natural Resources is having a board meeting tomorrow, Friday, 9:15 a.m. And on the agenda is the management plan for Kipahulu, which is in the project area, and the tax map key sites noted on that agenda. 3 out of the 4 are in that project area, and mosquito control is in that management plan. So we have submitted testimony, and some of us that can make it tomorrow morning and possibly sit through hours of them pushing this agenda item aside as they do, will speak on it. And so if anyone wants to submit, the testimony deadline ended, but you can submit late, and it just won't be necessarily read by the board before the meeting. So that's another thing that we're doing, is continuing to stay on top of those things. And definitely East Maui again is very concerned about that. Here we go. It's their community was not really outreach to on this, and they weren't even aware of it until we went out there. Dr. Peng and I went out as a private citizen. He went as a tropical disease expert, and we presented this information to the Hana community, and they were very surprised and very concerned, and are now really activated to say, why didn't you come to us about this. This is, our community where this is happening closest to right now.
Right.
And, so that's some of what we can do right now is to activate. I'm working on getting some folks together on Kauai because there hasn't really been a movement yet, but there's one growing already now. And
Okay.
so we're working on that.
That was my next question. Do you have a group on Kauai, and how proactive are they?
Yeah, I'm going to
So,
be going out. I've been in touch with a couple of people, and Levana Loma on Kauai put the word out that
oh,
we're
I
looking
was
at.
just going to
Yeah.
make that suggestion. That's awesome. She's got a great following.
Yeah, so then I did get response from that, and I'm connecting some folks, and I'm going to go out there myself for the event coming up on Sunday through this. They're having the multi-island events right now with the Children's Health Defense. So I'll
Mm-hmm.
be over there on Sunday doing outreach and speaking about the mosquitoes, and I hope to find our group that day and get everyone together and then be able to help facilitate that from over here on Maui once we have our people, and then it'll build from there, I believe, because that's what happened on East Maui. So
Is there a release going on for the Big Island as well, or not yet?
Not yet, but I actually do think that they might be the next target. So what the plan has been all along was to do an environmental assessment for Maui and to start here first, then an environmental assessment for Kauai, and they're also at the same time doing a statewide environmental assessment. And I think that one, it appears to be that one relates to this Department of Health targeting of human health with the mosquitoes. So they're coming for all the islands. There's no question about it. And they wanted to kind of get people convinced that this was this great thing for the birds, and that it's safe, effective, and we don't have to worry about it. Just we got to do this, or And meantime, like I said, they had this whole grand plan going on, and now it's all being exposed. People now see what's going on, and whereas before you might have seen an article going, they're going to do this project to help the birds, and you probably would go, oh, that's great, and you'd move on. Now people are like, wait, what?
Right.
So
Yeah.
yeah, people are getting it
Well,
that
because
was.
mosquitoes are very invasive to human and to, like I said, like livestock in our water. It's like this little tiny thing that can go everywhere. It's very disturbing to me. And you're absolutely correct. The entire state of Hawaii should be worried about it. Even if don't get complacent. Like if they don't release any on the Big Island, who's to say that the winds don't turn and blow them over, or in shipping containers, or whatever that may be, somebody stepping on a mosquito or whatever, and you're taking it on the airplane. I mean, that's how gorse was transmitted too from the islands. It'll get there if it's not released from your island. There is a way for it to get there, and those little suckers are light, so that wind will blow them miles away. So yeah, it's very, very serious. So do you guys already have representation? Do you have attorneys that are interested in taking the case?
Yeah, we actually have really great attorneys with environmental law background that are. I'm just really so pleased that we made that connection, and so we feel pretty good about the case that we're presenting and our representation. So
And
we had a little bit of a tough time to get the right fit and for attorneys to actually look at this, because everybody has been so not wanting to touch it, or maybe there are conflicts with agencies that they're involved in, or whatever reason. I mean, the media hasn't wanted to touch it till now. I mean, things are starting
right.
to change a little bit, but yes, we've got great representation, and so we're going to be going into the hearing next Friday. It sounds like it may be filmed. I don't know. The
Hmm.
BLNR or DLNR is requesting to film it, so there might be an opportunity that the public can watch along with us and see how the case goes. And it may be that one day Friday, it may continue after that, but we're going to continue pursuing it.
And you'll keep updating that information on your website as well, with all the information that people can submit testimony, how to donate, how to get involved. Maybe there's an attorney who wants to jump on board who's hearing from today as well. Is your legal team from Hawaii, or are they from the mainland?
No, they're from Hawaii, the Big Island, and then our lead attorney is on Oahu, and that's
Okay,
where our
awesome.
case will be. Yeah.
Have you guys been collaborating or gotten any advice from those who are concerned in Texas and Florida, where they've released the mosquitoes there?
I had spoken before all of this information came out more recently with the human malaria and all of the Texas and Florida releases in the news. I actually did get in touch with one of the main people that led the challenge against the GMO releases in Florida some time ago, and he definitely had some good input and information for us. But so far, I haven't actually heard directly from anybody that is seeing the correlation to make the connection here. That I think we're just starting to get the rest of the country and hopefully the world to understand that this is happening here in Hawaii. I don't know how it stayed under the radar. I've been pushing this whole year with media and making sure that we're getting this out there and press releases and trying to contact the right people. And we're finally starting to get some awareness. So we've definitely had some good coverage in the last few months here. We were on Dr. Sherry Tenpenny's show, and Peggy Hall covered it. SGT report, Dr. Lee Vliet read a statement recently. Ohio Brett has been very supportive. And
Awesome.
of course, and I cannot thank enough Scott Adam and Liberty Arise and you as well, Tamara, and Michelle Melendez on the Big Island, just for opening a platform for us to talk about this.
Yeah, the more that we can get the word out, because mainstream media, of course, they're owned by the powers that be, you may want to call them. So the way is for private journalism is to get out the word and share it throughout share it throughout the country. And I'm hoping that some of our affiliates that we've met along the way that are private journalists as well, from here to Arizona to Missouri, that they pick up on this, and this can go further, because the only way we can stop it is through education and media source. Mainstream is not going to cover it because of that hidden agenda. And you hit it right on the head too. When it comes to money, greed gets in the way of humanity, it seems. And so if it's not possible to stop them with this TRO, what's the next step that people can do?
Well, we still have our court case challenging that finding of no significant impact and seeking a ruling to require the environmental impact statement. So the TRO is connected with that, but it is a different hearing. So that will still continue. And I want to stay hopeful that we have a solid case, and that the Environmental Policy Act was put in place specifically for this purpose, and that, the island and the truth is on our side here. So I'm going to stay hopeful on that. But no matter what happens, we're going to keep pushing forward with challenging this at the legal level. And it is really important that people keep challenging it vocally, publicly, testifying, commenting when there are opportunities, sign waving, calling, the agencies, the representatives, anybody that might be able to have a voice in the community to take a stand on this, because a lot of people have not done that in our government. And, maybe they feel that they don't need to address it because it's an agency project, or, but they do. They need to represent the people that they were put in, positions to represent. So that's what I would say. Continue writing about it, making videos about it, sharing about it, make it the conversation, get it out to different media sources. We need help with that. If
Mm-hmm.
there's something important to share, if we get, a video to share this program, send it out to whoever, because everyone has different contacts at the national and global level with,
Definitely.
voices that can get the word out to a bigger audience. So yeah, and of course, please, I must keep saying we do need help with donations to our legal fund. We're going to need that for some time, and whatever anybody can contribute, and anybody that they know, if anybody knows anybody with more resources that could really help us keep going here, hawaiiunites.org/donate. There's a number of ways that you can donate through that link.
Awesome. So if somebody wants to get a hold of you, I know you mentioned your website. Do you have other avenues of contact? Maybe remind the audience of testimony and the court hearing so that they can support you and put it on their calendar as well.
Yeah, definitely. My number and email are floating around all over the place, but generally, I just, if you do the contact link on our website, that's coming to me. So that's the best way to contact me, and I will respond. I generally respond to everybody.
Hmm.
Even if they're opposed to what we're saying, I will respond with information and say, let's have a conversation, debate about it. But yeah, that's the best way. Just go to hawaiiunites.org/contact. And then also you can subscribe to our newsletter. That's the best way to make sure you're getting updated when things like testimony or updates on our legal case, or any, different opportunities to mobilize come up. So just hawaiiunites.org/subscribe, and you can get on our emailing list.
Awesome. Awesome. I really appreciate it. Do you have a goal set of how much money that you need to raise?
Well, we have an initial goal that was 30,000 based on, some discussions early on with attorneys, but it's pretty clear that we need to up that goal.
You're right.
And yeah, in my mind, I mean, if I was going to have to throw a number out right now, I'm thinking maybe 250,000 to feel comfortable that we can continue pursuing this for some time here. And, I don't know, as far as Kauai, we need to get mobilized over there and see if they can get an attorney and be willing to start fundraising there to do that, because that would be a separate case. And so,
Mm,
it's a lot,
yeah,
that
it's
they're
huge.
just coming at us, and like it just never stops. And every day
Right.
it's something else. And, I'm in the middle of preparing for that hearing next week. And so quite a bit going on here. But yeah, I would say we're going to be looking at a bigger goal with the legal fund in order to make sure that we can really take this on. And I think that hearing will help people to see that we're serious, and hopefully it'll have the outcome that we're hoping for. But whatever the outcome, just to see that this is solid information. This is a true concern for the
Hmm.
environment. That's why we're doing it. This is all coming from a very real place of alarm that they are going to be polluting our environment with something that can cause disease, and that is
Hmm.
irreversible. Once they release these, which they have already done, they can't take it back. It's a living organism. You know, of course, the mosquitoes are a concern. The bacteria is a living organism, and it can
Right.
live in the environment, and it can pass from one insect to another and just continue on. And this is not bacteria that just came here from, came over here and moved over from here to here over here. They're taking bacteria that comes from Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia, bacteria from here, taking this to a mainland lab. We don't even know. That's part of the FOIA request to find out the manufacturing process, what exactly is going on. But they are very much misrepresenting what's going on with that bacteria and the mosquitoes, because the mosquitoes, there's mosquitoes originating from Palmyra Atoll. And, we don't, again, we'll have to see what all the details of that are. We're still trying to get that information. Those are things that should have been in the document presented to the public and used to have this project go forward. So this is the issue. Why don't we know the answer to these questions?
Mm-hmm.
This is not okay at all.
No, it's not okay. And one of the most important things that you said, I mean, everything is very important and educational, but one of the things that no matter whether you're for this or against it, if it doesn't work out, you can't take it back. The damage is done. And how can we recover from that? And what will be the solutions? And I don't know about you or anybody else. I don't feel like I'm willing to take that gamble on the unknown. And it sounds like that, again, the transparency is lacking and the testing is lacking as well to ensure that we are all safe. Because you already said, I'm reiterating for the audience, they said, well, there might be accidental females left in. Well, how big is the accident going to be? And what gateway is this going to lead into in the next step? And are they willing to put in a disclosure that if anything becomes of this release, are they willing to take full responsibility and liability for the issues that may come out of this? I
Right,
don't know.
and nobody seems to want to be held accountable as far as who's accountable if something goes wrong. There's all these
Mm-hmm.
multiple agencies involved and non-governmental organizations, and so who do we even hold accountable when
Right.
something goes wrong? Because it's not an if, something will go wrong, one way or the other, because there's so many things that could go wrong. So yes, for sure.
Absolutely.
And as far as the females, a few things. One, it only took 3 females accidentally released in Singapore for the population of mosquitoes to be overtaken by that bacterial strain of mosquito. 3
Wow.
females. The other thing is that the females are, we already know they're going to be released. There's no question about it. It's just a question of how many will be released. But one female can produce 160,000 more females in her 8-week lifespan. So even
Wow.
just one, through breeding and then that offspring breeding and and that's just the one, right? So imagine we have over 3,000 in that week, and then this is overlapping with the next week, etc. And just to add to that is the concern again of this horizontal transmission of the bacteria. Dr. Peng's main concern is that the bacteria can transmit outside of the host in the environment to the other insects. They may be creating those females out in the wild through that horizontal transmission. And because we don't know what may happen with that bacteria, I don't think I touched on this yet, but there are peer-reviewed studies showing that Wolbachia bacteria can cause mosquitoes to become more capable of transmitting avian malaria, which could kill the birds, and is supposed to be the point of this project. It could go completely backwards, and
Right.
also increased ability to transmit West Nile virus, which birds and humans can get. This is, I just can't even believe anybody would hear this which is coming from their own documents and from peer-reviewed studies, that anyone would hear this and continue pushing forward with not just promoting the project, but not even wanting to look at the idea that this of all things merits further study.
It's just crazy. Can anybody see these documents?
Absolutely. All of these documents I'm referencing are on our website,
Oh,
on the
awesome.
resources page on
Okay.
the website. And if there's anything, it's not necessarily, I know exactly where to find a document because, I'm like, oh, I need to look for that one. I know exactly where it is. But if anyone wants to see a specific document and you reach out to me, I will show you where to find that specific document. But it is all on the website.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Tina, for coming on. I appreciate your bravery and all the work that you're doing. And if there's contact or, that you have information for Kauai and a team that you need help building on the Big Island, please share and we'll put the word out and, maybe come back on before the court date and let's do one more show to get the word out again and remind people of what's going on. The more the merrier. And I'll share your information with others as well. I really appreciate what you're doing. And one more time, if you want to give a closing statement and again your contact information, just so that we're hammering it out there for people to keep it in their brain.
Absolutely. So thank you for the opportunity. Anytime I get a chance to speak on this and get more people to be aware and on
Mm-hmm.
board with it. So our website is hawaiiunites.org with an S.
Yeah.
And we are, our main goal right now is to raise the funds to continue this legal case. So that's hawaiiunites.org/donate. And then also, I would just ask again for people to spread the word about this so that everybody's talking about it. Share information about it on your social media. Let people know when there's opportunities to comment, testify. The more of us that do that, the better, so that we can show the numbers, because we already know that most of the community is opposed to this, but we need to show those numbers when there's opportunities to testify and comment. And so please do that. And please, yes, go to the website, hawaiiunites.org. On our homepage, there's a link to comment on that Kauai environmental assessment. And that is very, very important that we all do that and that all islands come together on this.
Awesome. Again, thank you so much. Thank you for your time. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and close out. And I hope that you'll join us again. Give us some updates and whatever we can do to support your efforts. Thank you again, Tina. I really appreciate it.
Great. Thank you so much, Tamara. Aloha.
Aloha. Well, I hope everyone learned something from this episode and that you get involved and don't take it for granted of what is going on behind the scenes. We can't let these types of situations take over and not happen without full transparency. Knowledge is power, and we need to start getting involved and being proactive. Well, with that being said, I hope you enjoyed this segment. Please continue to tune in every Thursday at 3 p.m. to Redtime Stories on the Liberty Arise media platform on Rumble. You can also find the show on YouTube at Redtime Stories. Remember, if you have any content or questions, please send them to me to writeasred@pm.me. That's RIGHTASRED@pm.me. We're going to keep talking story with real people and real stories and putting some rumors to rest and exposing corruption and bringing things to light that are important to the community. Again, please remember to email me, writeasred@pm.me, and any questions. We'll even put some content on there for you and your video clips. But thank you again for tuning in. And remember, the truth has no fear.